Breakups are practice for death. The only difference is thinking that you could come back. And this loss is the worst part to take.
Blue The Magi dives deep to explore the complex interplay of emotions and perspective that creates our reality, extracts their truths, and returns with an insight through what can only be described as a musical hero's journey.
Expand further on that.
Thank you for your question, Lani. If I was to expand further on that, I suppose that's pretty much exactly how I would describe my musical style. It's the two words that always come to mind is articulating emotion, and that's pretty much exactly what music feels like to me. I have quite a strong emotional internal experience, I suppose. And yeah, for me, it's really about using music to put that across, to share those emotive feelings, because I would consider myself a very empathetic person. And
as are most creatives.
As are most creatives, yeah, it's a very good point. And so, really sharing my emotions with other people through music, and also being very aware that there are other people who are experiencing very similar emotions. I think a very common experience that a lot of people who enjoy music have is that the music that they're listening to really helps them get through perhaps like a hard time or something like that.
Breakups and such.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps like a breakup, perhaps like leaving the job, perhaps maybe like a transition in their life. And as an artist, that's exactly what I want to create so that people can relate to it. Because me myself, I've
Me, myself, and I.
Me, myself, and I. There's been plenty of music that's helped me through certain things, and that's because that music was almost very specific to.
Well, can you give me an example of that, or us an example of that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
I actually
good,
very
go.
can. So there's a song by a band called Sleeping with Sirens called "If You Can't Hang." And the first verse, it goes something like, "Met a girl at 17, thought she meant the world to me." Something like, she turned out to be a cheat. Something like, I gave her everything, she turned out to be a cheat.
Yeah.
At that time in my life, I was 17.
How poignant.
Very, very relevant.
Yeah.
I'd gotten with a girl who I was super into. She turned out to be a cheat, you know what I mean? Left me for everything.
Oh man, we paint pictures, I think, and they don't
We've
end up...
all been there before.
Yeah, dude,
We've all
fucking,
been there before.
I think everyone's had probably a negative romantic experience, but that particular song was almost like articulating exactly what I was going through, with my age. The whole idea of like, if you can't hang, then there's the door, because like, she was always like, oh, sorry, I can't hang today. So that song like really kind of helped me through that kind of situation. So I suppose, I guess I want to make music that, especially my current stuff, really can help people articulate perhaps like an emotion they're going through.
Yeah, well, what about the Death Practice? That's based on your recent breakup.
Yeah, that's right. So I tried
coming out in July, by the way.
Yeah, that's right, 2nd of July. So Death Practice is really about sort of coming off the back of my previous single, The Other Side, which was really about the chaotic kind of feeling
Love
of
it,
a
by the
breakup.
way.
Yeah, thank you so much. The real chaotic kind of like freaking out stream of consciousness that comes with trying to figure out like what's going on. Death Practice is really about the feeling sort of post-breakup, just like realizing that like, okay, this is what's happened.
It's pretty morbid.
It's too
name.
late. It's too late. Yeah, that's right.
Morbid and intense.
Yeah.
Very intense.
Reason why I say this, I can relate to this 100% because I've recently broken up with my missus, and ironically, before it, I know, I'm single now. If you got any single friends,
ladies,
I'm hunting.
We'll put a little caption down the bottom.
And it was interesting. At first, I found like when I was listening to the track, when I was listening to music, I was like, okay, shit, this is like super confronting. And it's not only, it's like really intense lyrics.
You're talking about The Other Side still, right? Yeah. Yep.
And I just thought, I was just like, whoa, this is really intense. But then I listened to the lyrics, and I'm like, okay, this guy gets me. This guy gets me. And I thought about that, and I was just like, man, like, people need to hear this stuff, man. People need to hear it, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I think like one thing, especially with The Other Side in particular, is it's a very like dark, abrasive track. And I guess for me, I really wanted to portray the emotions that I was, feeling at that time, which are fucking raw, man. They're like, it's that track is literally me freaking out. Like going from like, okay, I know what's going on. Holy shit!
You can actually feel it when you're listening to it. It's you've definitely
very much so. But the thing is, with a track like that, it's very abrasive, and it's not easy listening because it literally is like almost like the sound of a breakup, whereas of a breakup sort of happening. But whereas Death Practice is almost about the aftermath of it. It was really inspired by this a Facebook video that I'd seen a few years ago by this guy called Jason De Silva. And he was talking about the concept of, he literally said a breakup's a practice for death.
Is that the relationship guy that he does?
He's not a relationship guy, but he used to be the host of this show called Brain Games.
Yes.
Brain Games.
Yeah.
So he makes really interesting videos, but he made this particular one and where he was saying like breakup's a practice for death, in the sense where you really practice mourning someone, and you practice, and I mean that's what it is. This person that was such a big deal in your life, all of a sudden, they're not there anymore. You can't talk to them.
Well, they're not the
you can't
picture
have
that
anything.
you painted of
That
them.
is crazy to think that though, because it's so true. It's just like suddenly
There's a grief in breaking up.
it's a weird, it's a weird thing at the fact that it's just like, okay, sweet. Once it's over, it's just like, okay, I don't have that person to talk to. Like,
It is a death.
It's a death.
And that's sort of one thing I talk about, especially like in the, let's say the lyrics in the chorus, where it's like, breakup's a practice for death. Only difference is thinking that you could come back. You know what I mean? So it's thinking about, like I don't have this person in my life anymore, but perhaps there's like a potential that I'll meet them again.
You're always thinking about
exactly,
it could work out in the future.
But the reality is like the loss really is the hardest part to take, because
that's the grief aspect.
There's a hole that they've left in its way too big.
then
I'm literally just speaking the lyrics of the song right now. But that's sort of why I made that song, because it literally is death practice. Like this person has died to you. You know what I mean? Like this person is no longer alive in your life. You can't speak to them again. The relationship that you had doesn't exist anymore. And there's a real big sense of loss.
Well, in contrast to that, what about Backseat? That's a very different kind of. It's more fun. It's like when I heard it, I just wanted to get up and shake my ass.
I'm really glad you like that. That song. So it was something I was experimenting with in terms of like I made that song in one day. Like literally just thought of the idea and
Simplicity,
made it.
man.
That's
you can feel it sounds good.
That song was really more so about, I guess, like an optimism in the sense of just like taking control of your life.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
cool.
it's interesting. So where that song really came from is in dream interpretation. I was having this reoccurring dream where I was in a car and I was in the back seat, but I would climb to the front seat.
Leaning forward, that's what the picture is.
Yeah,
you
that's
can
what the
see
picture
you're
is.
like
So I would literally, the car's going in some weird direction. Maybe there's no one in the front seat. And so I would literally climb into the front seat, take control. And so when I started looking that up, the sort of like dream sign for a car is it signifies
losing
your direction in life.
Control,
signifies your direction in life. So the whole recurring dream I was having literally meant I was stepping into the front seat and taking the reins. And that's what that song was about. Like, I don't want to be in the back seat. Let me grab the wheel for a minute, get it swerving. Like, I don't want to be in the back seat of my whole life. Let me take control and
I don't even drive, and I've had that dream heaps.
Word. Well, there you go, yeah.
What's a credit to yourself, man, especially with the music and what we were just previously talking about, is the fact that, like, and but maybe a bit deep going into mental health, but it's like the fact that like people can see your music and like they can be inspired and enriched, knowing it's just like, okay, sweet, if something bad happens to me, if something, especially a breakups are bad, and some people unfortunately don't deal with breakups that well.
They actually kill themselves. It happens. People do not deal with it.
But the fact is that they can listen to your music, they can see it's like, okay, this guy's been where I've been,
and there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Because and that light being is that you're able to creatively express yourself through that music, man. And it's just like, and you're basically like a musical journey. You're sharing that journey with the audience.
The hero's journey. Yeah, bro. As a writer, I totally jam with that.
I really like how you guys get it. That's really cool. But no, you're absolutely right. I think exactly what you just said about really sharing it, sort of going back to what we were talking about just before about really articulating that emotion so that people can relate to it. It's absolutely that because, you know, dude, so many people have gone through something similar.
Yeah.
You know? And
I don't think you can meet someone that hasn't, basically.
Oh, well, I mean, well, there you go. But I think a real core for empathy, for me personally, the way that I really think about empathy and when I'm starting to get empathetic is I just put myself in the shoes. I mean, I've felt a lot of things before. Like, I felt excluded. I felt, you know, like...
Well, let's touch a little bit more on that. Because,
yeah.
like, but I don't know where your heritage is from, but being of dark skin, like, what's that like in Australia?
For me, it's been nothing but positive. So my parents are from South Africa.
Oh my God, that's 3 South Africans in one season. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We should just call it the South
We love
African
the South
season.
Africans on the show. We love the South Africans.
Accidentally.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been nothing. So I actually made a post about this off the back of the Black Lives Matter march, which really got me thinking about racism again. But my parents are from South Africa. They're colored South Africans, which means they're mixed. So during I mean, most people are familiar with apartheid,
Yeah.
so institutionalized racism. So there was whites, coloreds, blacks.
Well, literally
Indians.
means separateness, the word apartheid.
The word means, separateness, that's right.
Sorry, do you think that, so you were exposed to that?
No, I wasn't. So the thing is, my
You were born here.
parents
You're
were.
born here.
Oh,
right?
you were born here.
I wasn't born in Australia, but my parents grew up in that system. I was born in the year it ended, but my parents had already left South Africa since then, and I never lived in South Africa.
And what city, sorry? Because
So
I know
mean-
Johannesburg was the...
Durban.
Oh,
They grew
okay,
up in
cool.
Durban, yeah.
I got
So
friends in Durban.
but the thing is, for me, I mainly grew up between Australia and New Zealand. Like, so I grew up in New Zealand and moved to Australia when I was 12. And so on this side of the world, it's very young. And apart from the atrocities that happen towards the Aboriginal people and the Māori people.
Oh, and it's still
to an extent,
happening. It's-
which still continues to this day. But like for me, there isn't necessarily a, let's say, precedent for racism. I mean, there is, but there isn't. And for me, because I look so culturally androgynous, people can't really...
I know!
People
You
can't
could
be
literally
racist to me. You know,
Yeah.
I could be anything. So I've never experienced any racial discrimination. In fact, if anything for me, like my hair used to be a lot longer, as he knows.
Do you think you get the cool card? Like that
100%.
whole, oh God, play
it's been
that
nothing
shit,
but positive.
man.
Like, you know, when my hair's long, it's just like people
Love
are
it.
always coming up to me, giving me compliments and stuff. I've had nothing but a
Let me touch your hair. I love it so much.
He knows.
Can you be in my film clip?
Yeah, he knows because we used to work together a few years ago and stuff. But like,
I knew him.
Yeah.
I literally, it was like I rocked in. So we did, and this is somewhat, relation to.
You're talking about sales and marketing.
Yeah, this is somewhat relations to the fact that, into music you're sympathetic, and it's like, well, that's quite good that we were a charity fundraiser together.
Yeah.
But I actually, the first day I rocked in, man, it was a good time, man. It was, but I literally, we clicked.
Straight
Is that because of the?
clicked.
Can I ask something really random?
Yeah,
Is
go
that like you guys might be the only 2 people of color in a room? Do you just like straight away click, or is it a personality thing?
Let me put it this way. So when I was in New Zealand, when I was like growing up in New Zealand, dude, so many people in New Zealand are brown, so it's not that big of a deal.
And they have a treaty as
all the
well, which is
cousins, all
different.
the cousins.
But it's regardless of like treaty or whatever, like legal racial relations. Like there's a lot of brown people in New Zealand, very multicultural place. Someone like me, you wouldn't get a second look, right? When I moved to Australia, and as I started like growing up through high school, I stood out a lot more. I would say in a positive way. Like,
That's really beautiful. I love that angle.
But yeah, it's been nothing but.
What?
But
That's so good to
sort
hear.
of positive for me.
I will touch up on that note as well, because like I've recently, this guy was the main reason why I'm in Australia actually. But when
It's a long story, but
when I first got here, I was under the preconception. I was just like, I heard that, Australia's a pretty racist country. Like they don't like New Zealanders, stuff like that. And then I got here, man, and it was a freaking good time, man. And the good thing is because I'm Māori or brown, they like naturally assume that like, I'd be going out to like the city and stuff, especially at nighttime when it's all dangerous and stuff. And people are walking, like I'll be walking through, and then guys will like be like, "Oh, sorry, bro, all good, man."
Do you think that the expectations made it less hectic?
Expectations.
Like,
Whereas back in New Zealand, they're like, "What do you want? What are you doing here?"
Oh wow!
But
Interesting.
on that note, mate, It's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's been so nice. You're a lovely chat. I wish we had longer.
Wish we did have longer.
Yeah.
Could have longer. Love to have you back on the show, man. But we'll just have a little toast.
And can we just, we don't have time, but I wanted to talk more
toast.
about your emo influence and how you're changing the game, but for another time.
You know what? Maybe let's
We'll save that for another time. We'll save that for round 2.
Nah.
Awesome, man.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, you're amazing.